You're listening to Lather Talk with your hosts John Shea and Gerard Gustillo.
Well, listeners, welcome back to another episode of Lather Talk. We have two very special guests for you. First, I'd like to introduce a guest host for Gerard, as Gerard is traveling. So I'd like to welcome Nate from Instagram's BBS Live. Nate, welcome. Thank you for sitting in the guest host spot.
Oh, for sure, man. Dude, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. I'm ready. I'm prepared.
He is prepared.
Knob Creek, 12
yeah, for
year.
the audio listeners, that was Knob Creek 12 year.
I got
Cheers.
my whiskey wisdom glass. Cheers.
Cheers. I got my water.
And I have I have 6 Gentleman's Nod soaps right by me that I can show off. So.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I do love that you kind of knew the assignment and brought some visual aids. So I have it also here on the screen. Again, you can follow Nate and Mel live on when they're live on Instagram at bbs.live. So that's what.
And Brandon.
I'm sorry, Brandon.
No, but that's okay because that just happened on Thursday. So yeah, Brandon
it was just made official. Longtime collaborator and now official part of the show, Brandon Shaves. So congrats, Brandon.
The best hair of BBS Live.
That is true. That's true.
That's right. The best hair of BBS Live.
Mm-hmm.
And that voice you heard there, the voice you heard there is our main guest for today. We have Chris from Gentleman's Nod. Chris, welcome to the show. So good to have you on Lather Talk.
Thanks so much, John. Just excited to be here and just excited to kind of share a little bit more about what we do and just get to know your audience and talk to you guys a little bit.
Awesome. Well, again, we're so happy to have you. Just to kick things off, do you think you could give us kind of a little intro to Gentleman's Nod for someone who might be new to wet shaving or just not familiar with the company?
So we've been in operation actually since we started just before the end of 2018. So we've been around for a little while now. We didn't really officially kind of launch out there into the more public space until April of 2019. And that was with Big Shave Southwest, an event that's put on, that used to be put on. We haven't had one in quite a while now, but by Phoenix Shaving out there in Phoenix, Arizona. Mm-hmm. But that was just a great introduction to kind of when we first started. And, basically, my goal is, I've been making soap for about 7 years or so now, but really introduced our products and our soaps in 2019. But as time has gone on, we've kind of focused more on the fragrance side of things and kind of let that lead the way. We, certainly want to make sure that we have the best products that we possibly can in both the, shaving space, the beard space, but also that are kind of unique in terms of fragrance offerings. We do all of our own original fragrances and really try to, bring something unique and excellent there to the marketplace.
Yeah. Your base is no slouch, though. I mean, your fragrances are great, but your base is top tier as well. So
thank you. I'm slightly obsessed there as well. I think once you get to meet, I think a lot of artisans are really this way too. They, it's just sometimes people have to tell me just stop. Just it's
as far as the tinkering goes.
Yes. But I think a lot of us are, kind of, creative and tinkerers and creative at heart. And, that lends itself to, constant innovation and which can be good. But at the same time, it's like there's a point where it's like, yeah, you just need to let it go for a while.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but are you based out of Omaha, Nebraska?
We are. So I'm born and raised in Southern California. I actually lived in Southern California for almost my entire life. I mean, most of my life at this point. We've been back in Omaha here for I guess, maybe 13 or so years.
Okay.
But I mean, not to give away my age or anything like that, but most of my life has been in Southern California. Yep.
Gotcha. And what first brought you out to that area then from and made the move?
Uh, I met a little lady in San Diego who
Good
is a
answer.
Nebraska native, and we ended up moving back here as her family was kind of all moving back to the Omaha area, and
Okay.
looking to start a family and that kind of thing. And cost of living is a little bit cheaper in
Oh,
Omaha.
Oh yeah.
oh, I bet.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I bet.
We had a house just outside of LA at the time, and we're like, we start a family, and maybe one of us doesn't work. How is this going to work? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, awesome. So thanks for tackling that question. I know sometimes it could be various reasons, but to move for a loved one, it's so great to hear. That being said, what do you miss most about California?
Oh, you know what? I love the beach. I mean,
Mm,
I you know, most people can tell by looking at me. I look like a Southern California boy. I mean, that's really what I am. I'm blonde hair, blue eyes. Grew up surfing, that kind of thing. So, the ocean, hands down. Not too many oceans around here. If you're familiar with our
Yeah.
geography here in the United States.
the ocean. Are you I forget if we talked about food in the past and just in our in our personal conversations, but like any major food because I mean, man, like especially LA area.
Oh,
One
got it
time
all.
I know we talked about like Korean barbecue for
Hmm.
whatever reason it
Oh,
came up, but is there? I mean, the Mexican how's the Mexican food comparatively?
So, in general, the Mexican food here in Omaha, I mean, it's just not even like in the same ballpark as
Oh,
Southern California.
I was afraid that was the answer. I'm
You
sorry.
have very small pockets in South Omaha.
Mhm.
There's a large Hispanic population there, and they actually
Okay.
do have some pretty fantastic Mexican food. But outside of that, nope, it's bad.
So Chris, I did want to mention. I remember when you guys kind of first hit the scene and kind of the buzz, and I'm curious if any of this feedback, like the early feedback, made it back to you because uh, I, I want to say like a good chunk of at least the circles I ran in were like wary of because how slick like your presentation was as far as like, labels go. Like you had your template down, so it wasn't anything flashy, but like it was definitely well designed. Uh, the color, branding colors. Oh, Nate is holding up a tub of Earnest, and of course, packaging has changed and evolved over time. But yeah, so like right out the gate, it's like it was very polished, Chris, and I'm sure you know this because you spent time developing that. But did that feedback ever get to you where like like wet shavers were like, oh, I don't know about this gentleman's nod?
No, you know what? It's really interesting. So I mean, I don't know how much this tells about me either, but I didn't have an Instagram account until I started the account for Gentleman's Nod.
Okay.
So in general, I'm not super familiar with social media, that kind of thing. So, um, when I started my wet shaving journey, I was on the forums a little bit. I mean, this goes back years ago, but so, but in general, there's just so many different communities in wet shaving. Um, I would say that I didn't have any conception of that at that time, and even now, there's say newer reviewers come on the scene and will mention in a video or something kind of just what the general consensus is on our products or just kind of what people are saying, and I'm like, I I'm glad to hear that, but I haven't heard that. So definitely no. So no.
And again, this is when you first launched too. So
I just try to
yeah.
keep my head down and work and do the
yeah,
best, bring the best products out that I can possibly bring. That's what I do.
nothing wrong with that.
I'm
Nothing
pretty
wrong.
Yeah.
old school, man.
Well, you mentioned the forums.
Yep.
I assume kind of like Badger and Blade or like Damn Fine Shade, like one of the kind of one of
So
those.
I mean, I was on Badger and Blade for a little while, not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So Shave Nook,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
and I guess even one that was a smaller one called the Shave Den.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I think it was pretty early after I don't remember when exactly they started. So I was really heavy into them. Kind of I don't think they had been around that long. But then the Shave Nook, quite a bit. I did like a series on evaluating fragrances from a couple artisans, like way back when. I mean, this is like when Mike's first came out, and yeah.
Okay.
Oh god, that was
So like
Yeah,
like
there was
2016,
was it the
2017?
yeah.
Further back?
no, it was before that.
Yeah, Mike's I
Okay,
think was
Mike's been around for a while. Yeah.
2011 or 12, I thought.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe, I think.
I did not go far back. Yeah.
guessing.
I think I would have done that probably 11 or 12, something like that. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, I know I started wet shaving in 13, and I know Mike's natural was
Was
a
around.
thing before that.
Okay.
Because he's an OG, as Mel says. He's an OG.
He's an OG.
So
Well, I asked about the forums, not so much to like know where you were hanging around, but like, God, we don't want to assume that sometimes the soap makers, fragrance folks aren't necessarily wet shavers, but that's not the case here. Like you use you use safety razors. I remember, I think when you were trying out straight razors, like what's your preference as far as your personal shaves?
So I would say my personal shaves now at this point, I typically use a single edge or double edge razor. I'll use straight razors on occasion, but don't use them. There was a period of time where I used them a lot more regularly, but I typically use single edge or double edge razors at this point. Oddly enough, like the razor that I've been using the most recently is probably not even like, your typical artisan like razor that everyone's excited about or anything like that. But I got it for travel, and I used it the whole time I was on vacation in Florida and just fell in love with it. It was the Leaf's Thorn.
Oh no,
nice.
that's a bomb. That's
it's just so easy. It's so easy.
It's the best leaf razor.
Yeah.
I mean,
and really for travel, it was fantastic. I mean,
yeah.
So for someone not so familiar, I'm talking about myself, with the leaf offerings, which one is the Thorn?
It's the one that's made for. I mean, it's a single edge, so you can only put one of the half safety razor blades in there. Not, the three like the other one. But it's also the one that's a little bit stiffer, made more for face shaving versus leg shaving.
It's a good head shaver too. Very good head shaver.
Oh,
I will never know about that.
Yeah.
He's
so John,
keeping the hair.
It's the twig, but the more aggressive version. So they called it the Thorn.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
What I like about it also is, every once in a while, this actually happened this week, but every once in a while I'll get lazy and not shave for, the good part of a week. And I'll just mow things down with that too, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, it is really a great razor. You should probably have one, John, if you haven't tried one. Because they're not that expensive. I think it's like 50, 60. I know you have a ton of stuff. I know you're trying not to buy it.
No, I was going to say, folks have been telling me to give it a try, and
I think on the lesser expensive side.
Yeah. I think it's like 50 or $60.
I believe they're based in Connecticut too, so they're in the New England area. So I should like, like show some love to like local artisans and whatnot. So I'll add it, especially with Chris's endorsement there.
Yeah. I want to say they were actually at that Big Shave Southwest that we went to when we started. It was either that year or the year because we went to the one the year before and didn't have our products there. I can't remember which one it was, but they were there. So
cool. Speaking of like meetups, Are you attending the upcoming one in Idaho? That is, is it the Northwest? Apologies, I don't know the official. Northwest wet shaving meetup.
Yep.
We will be there. You're going to be there, Nate?
No, but I just knew the name.
Yeah.
No, I will not be at that one, unfortunately, but it does sound awesome because we know Bilu from the Canadian Mafia will be there. A lot of the Canadians are going to be there.
Yep.
No, it sounds fun, but no, I will not be there, unfortunately.
Yes, so we will be there, and we will be actually debuting a new fragrance there. New soap, splash, and fragrance. Yep.
Is this will this be like the fall offering from you guys?
This will be a fall offering. It's actually the exciting thing about it. We do have names for our collections, and we're kind of filling them out as we go along. So we've only had one there, and the one that we just released, Bluegrass Muse, was the first in that collection. But we have the Origin series, which everyone should know from Musashi. That was the first release in that series. So this is actually the second release in the Origin series.
Cool.
That's developed around a single heart note, and then it's supposed to, the surrounding notes are either taken from that region or meant to give you the impression of that region. So it's actually going to be coffee.
Ooh, I was about to ask you. I was going to ask you if you could tease like what the heart note is, but coffee.
It's going to be coffee, and if we're talking about Origin series, the birthplace of coffee is some of the coffee lovers out there will know it as Sidamo, which is in Ethiopia, or actually now it's called Sidama. So it's called Sidama. Yep.
Very awesome.
I'm intrigued. Awesome. You have my attention.
Yeah.
Much darker. For those of you that have been looking for a darker offering from us, there you go.
I feel like someone asked that. I feel like you already answered a question from one of the listeners. So, all right, very nice.
I'm intrigued because it is tough. I mean, those coffee scents are tough, but I know it's not just a coffee scent with
no, it's not stuff. Just coffee.
There's a bunch of notes in there that will
I've been wearing it quite a bit. We actually just got it on Thursday, so it was just delivered on Thursday. So super
the finalized version that's going to go in all the various products.
Yep.
Oh,
the raw oil.
That's very exciting.
So I will bring this up too. I don't do this with all artisans, but I have told Chris that whenever he comes out with a release, just send it my way. Just do it. Just send it. Doesn't matter. Just pay. Just send the bill. I'll pay it. Because I mean, if you have not tried Gentleman's Nod, just do it. You are missing out. Just do it. And you can't say that with a lot of artisans. There's probably a handful of artisans where it's like, it's kind of a locked in. It's good. Just get it. And Chris is one of them.
Chris is an auto buy for you then.
Yeah.
What you're saying. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And I truly think the only one. I mean, maybe
it's high praise, Chris. That's why we have him. That's why we have him here today.
Yes.
Well, that's actually one of the pieces of feedback that came from me from a newer reviewer in the community, and I was like, "Yeah, I haven't heard that. That's really great, but I haven't heard that." So, I mean, I'm not unfortunately, whether it's time or what, because I mean, for the most part, I do have some part-time help, but I'm pretty much it's just me. So I don't have as much time as I'd like to be really fully participate in a lot of the communities out there. So, I don't really hear a lot of that. So, when I do hear something like that, it's really awesome to hear. It truly is humbling. Yeah.
If you're looking for a cool place to hang out with traditional shaving enthusiasts, come on down to the Lather Talk Discord. Share your shave of the days, mail calls, or talk about your favorite hardware or software, and just about everything in between. Once again, that's Lather Talk Discord. Check out the link below.
kind of following that note, Chris, is Gentleman's Nod, is this a full-time endeavor to you, or is it, or is there another like day job kind of thing in addition to Gentleman's Nod?
So my first step was when we launched this, I actually I guess it was, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year in. I did go to a part-time job. I was actually bartending, basically just Friday, Saturday nights. And then I would say it's been at least a year, maybe more now that I stopped doing that as well. So yes, it's full time now. Yep.
Okay. Kudos to you. I know that's tough, especially like being your own boss. And you just mentioned, you have some help, but for the most part, it's all, whatever time I'm sure you have is going into Gentleman's Nod work.
And I mean, and you really never stop working, in a lot of ways. You're on social media, you're, at home, working on, whether it's design stuff or whatever it is. I mean, anyone who has their own business probably knows that you can keep going. You kind of have to set boundaries and shut things off at some point, but yeah, for sure. But no, it's been a huge blessing. We've finally moved out of my basement about a year and a half ago, and got our own. So we have a location that we have now, just the lab. It's basically 3 different rooms. It's kind of a big utility room used for storage and other things, and then like a pack and ship room, and then the lab room where I make everything, which is huge because now my house doesn't smell like fragrance all the time.
And I would imagine too, as you mentioned, like boundaries, especially when you are your own boss, it can be hard to set, but like having that separate space, I'm sure, right, it helps kind of keeping those boundaries, leaving work at work,
huge,
and then
huge
family life. It's family time.
Yeah. It's like 20 minutes or so away. I don't necessarily like driving there now, but at the same time, it's definitely huge positive to not have the business in the house. Absolutely. For sure.
Okay, so but that being said, have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with a fragrance idea and like in a cold sweat, like and then had to like quickly jot it down? Like has stuff like that happened to you, since it's kind of always on your brain?
That's really funny. Is that a real question?
That yes.
Okay.
Does that describe something that happened, or?
I mean, when hasn't it happened? It always.
All right.
I mean, I can't, like when I was developing Musashi. So just so you know, I'm not a perfumer. I do work with one of the top perfume houses in the world, Mon, to create our fragrances. I'm the designer. Okay. So I design the fragrances, but they execute it, and they're ridiculously good at what they do. I mean, when I was developing Musashi, I always have a notepad by my bed at night, but I mean, I would wake up with, this fragrance note and that fragrance note. And, oddly enough too, like when I'm at church, a lot of times, I'll be in the middle of like worship singing, and I'm like, gonna pull out a pen and like, oh yeah,
just
I
runs
gotta do
out
this.
of church.
Yeah. No, I don't leave, but I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Fully paying attention.
He runs out the door in the middle of the I mean,
so yeah,
divine
all
inspiration,
the time.
Chris. Divine inspiration.
All the time.
Okay, that's so funny, guys. Is that a real question? Like, yeah, that's.
No, that describes my brain perfectly.
Okay.
I vividly remember back to when I was new in the wet shaving community, and it's honestly, it's changed my life, because when I was in grad school, when I first started kind of into the wet shaving community, and it really changed everything on the way I looked at personal care and just doing things excellently and enjoying mundane tasks in life. And from that moment on, like, I was, as you guys probably remember too, like back to when you were new in the community. I mean, I went, deep down the rabbit hole and became a collector of a number of different things. And, but, I really continued on that path and went into management in the wet shaving world. I worked for the Art of Shaving, got into actually a lot of multi-store management duties, traveled around and trained people and hired people for the Art of Shaving. And it never really stopped, because then I put a soap lab in my basement and started making soap. So, and here we are. So, like, yeah. I mean, I'm still, I in some senses, I'm probably not necessarily as passionate about collecting things as I was, but I've never lost my passion for the industry and I'm a creative at heart too, so it's definitely a massive creative outlet for me. Whether it's formulating new products, whether it's fragrances, whatever it is, that's massively satisfying and fulfilling to me. And it drives me.
That's awesome.
Very cool. There, from your time at Art of Shaving, and I feel like there are stories for anyone that's worked retail. Are there any past stories, whether it could be a nightmare story or a very interesting interaction? Anything from those days that you could share with us on the podcast?
So I don't know. So working, I mean, it's probably good I'm not working there anymore. But well, plus they only have 2 stores now. But
right.
So a couple of interesting stories. So I mean, we would get so bored at our store in Omaha, and in the middle of winter you get like a snowstorm happening, and we were in an outdoor mall in Omaha, like in the middle of the snowstorm. So there's like nothing, and like we would make like ridiculous videos. We'd put all the like powered razors on in every single stand and just watch them like go around in circles and like take videos of like this, and it's just dumb stuff like that. I mean, just trying to entertain ourselves when absolutely nobody was coming into the store.
Man.
So, and other things, I did get some cool experiences with the company as well. I went to Sundance Film Festival to represent the brand in a like celebrity gifting capacity. So that was kind of cool. We got to meet some of the stars.
Yeah.
Some of them were cool. Some of them were not so much. But still a cool experience nonetheless. So. Well, there are interesting pictures of me out there with like I mean, actually some pretty big name stars. So
who is the coolest one though?
Positive. We'll accentuate the positive here.
So Viggo Mortensen was actually a really awesome guy.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, thank God. Aragorn.
Super cool guy. And it's really interesting because so exactly what you would think. Very humble and soft-spoken in real life. Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules.
Yes.
He's actually really cool too. But also, I mean, I took pictures with Katie Couric. Yeah, that one was on like their Instagram. I mean, it's still on their Instagram, I think. But anyway.
Yeah.
So like,
nice.
It's some interesting pictures.
That's a cool opportunity. Yeah. It's just like there's playing with the electric razor, or not? Sorry, the the powered razors at the store at a snowstorm, and then going to Sundance. So like those are definitely
nice.
the ups and the downs. So
thank
you for. I
mean, the other wasn't such a downer. I mean, it was just like, how are we going to keep each other? I mean, like how are we going to stay busy and like not go crazy right now? sitting in there for 8 hours when nobody comes in.
I was just thinking though, with that visual, it's like that something like that would be popular on like TikTok.
Yeah,
going back to social media platforms.
Yeah, I think the guy who filmed it put some like really silly like carnival music with it too.
So Chris, why don't we pivot to some listener questions? Not too many. We have a question from our Discord, Engineered Shave. He asks, what was your inspiration for Musashi?
So for Musashi, I mean, I kind of alluded to a little bit of it, kind of the process earlier, but I was always intrigued by, I read I guess it's really more of a novel by Yuji Yoshikawa, the novel Musashi. It's part biography, part novel, but just by the character himself, his life, the way he looked at life in general, a lot of the experiences that he had, just very intriguing to me. And so I always knew that I wanted to do a fragrance that, kind of, whether it's personified Musashi or gave homage to Musashi, I kind of always knew that I wanted to. So, obviously with that, we're going to Japan, and we're trying to find a fragrance that kind of fit. And I really paired that with my love for the fragrance of jasmine tea, and I'm not sure if any of the listeners remember when they used to have those. Was it Tivana?
In the mall?
Yep.
Yeah.
Tivana.
So they would bring out this big old tin, and they would like waft the tea in your face, and you just get like smacked with this wall of fragrance, which was really awesome. So, and jasmine tea like is always a fragrance I've really just loved, and so I knew when I wanted to do Musashi that was going to be like the one note that we kind of developed a fragrance around, and then the concept of the Origin series, bringing in different elements from that region, or just fragrances that evoked imagery from Japan in general. Yuzu is a kind of a no-brainer. Unique citrus, bitter sort of citrus from Japan. The yellow mandarin in there. Always love nashi pears, and you've got some of the like tartness and bitterness from yuzu. You're gonna definitely need some sweetness in there to round that out. So that nashi pear is incredibly sweet. If you're not familiar with the kind of large Asian pear, it's like brownish in color, brownish skin. So just kind of, and like I said, that was one that kept me up at night. I mean, I don't know how many times I woke up in the middle of the night with different fragrance notes, and just, yes, we need this, we need this. And that one is fairly unique in the sense that when I gave the brief, which is kind of the description and how we get the ball rolling on a fragrance with, as a designer, giving it to the perfumers at On, I literally gave them basically every scent note. And that's not normal for them, apparently. So, it's not that, like, I want to give them lots of creative liberty, because they're way better at this than I am. But I knew what that fragrance in a lot of ways smelled like before I ever even smelled it. So, I don't know that I can say that really about any of our other fragrances. That one was sort of completed before it started. Yeah.
Well, you hit. I mean, for all the work you put into it, like you hit it out of the park. I mean, last year it was scent of the year for most people, and it's still. I mean, I know this was supposed to be a limited thing, like it was supposed to be like a one-run thing, but people liked it so much that you kind of had to bring it back.
Yeah, and it sold out again. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it
sold
out again.
I did not know that.
And actually, particularly in the Asian market, which is really interesting. But I was like,
I'm not surprised.
I mean, I was literally forced to. I actually was going to let that fragrance run out until next spring. I was going to bring it back, but I should get it on Monday actually, because there's like 5 different wholesalers that were asking for it, and I was like, I guess I just shouldn't let this run out. So,
yeah.
Not to give away too many secrets too, but there is a flanker that's really far into development.
Really far, like it's moved along for, or like it's far away in the timeline?
No, there's a flanker that's almost totally complete.
Oh, hell,
all right,
let's go.
Let's take my money now.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But
it's funny, Chris, that you are sold out, but I did not know that until so Marcus and Sarah from the Barbershop Duet, they messaged me, or they messaged BBS Live, and it was something about, I was like, you have to get Musashi, like you've tried Gentleman's Knot and you haven't tried Musashi, and they're like, we would, but it's sold out. I was like, what? No, it doesn't make, he brought it back, you should have it. And you go everywhere, it's sold out.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through so much of that oil, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
That's awesome though. That's so cool.
I'm quite pleased to hear that it's doing so well in the Asian market, because I do think you knocked it out. I mean, for those who don't know, that was my favorite scent. That was my scent of the year for 2022, Musashi.
Same
and
here.
I do think there's something, it hits really close to home, or like something like primal. And I feel like it's a cultural kind of thing that you're able to capture with that one. So I think that further confirms it.
It's as close to a perfect scent as you can get. I mean, I know that's biased because no scent is technically perfect, but if there is a perfect scent, that is it.
So we stick with tea, but it's very different. There'll be similarities, but it's noticeably different.
If there's a tea element involved, again, just send it my way.
Also fragrance related, got one for you. Another question. This comes from Instagram at DC Pokita. Will the Bluegrass Muse EDP get a standalone release in Europe?
Standalone release. I'm not sure I completely understand that.
Is the fragrance available in Europe?
It is, but only through one vendor, and they don't necessarily order a lot of a time, particularly of the fragrances. So I know when we do send fragrances over there, they tend to go really fast. So the owner of that company has actually reached out to me in the last few days, and they're wanting to place another order. But I can bring that up as well, that there are definitely requests for that fragrance over there as well. Of course, he's asking for Musashi again too. So
of course. I mean, you gotta. Should we ask the listener to maybe contact said vendor? Because I know, obviously, if customers ask for some product.
Antiquatura shaving.
Okay, so DC Pokita and anyone else in the EU, please contact Antiquatura. I hope I said that right.
I
always
knew it started
watch that.
That's all I knew. So
yeah. So let them know. In general, like, you want to see this EDP, you want to see this particular scent that's either like always sold out or whatever. I know ordering's hard on the vendor side too. So I think in general, and people in the US can do this too, like let your vendor, your preferred vendor, know what you like, and in general, that helps them order stuff so it comes in stock.
For sure.
One more question for you, Chris, from the listeners. This one comes also from Instagram at Vintage Head Shaver. When will you make a great aquatic scent?
I think I know that guy. Isn't his name Bob or something like that?
Yeah, or Ben,
Yeah.
Bob, Ben.
Or maybe.
Ben.
Oh wait, no, Ken.
No.
Ken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we set out to make Calabria, that was kind of my idea with Calabria. However, certain things happened during the fragrance creation process. We submit the brief and get a number of submissions back and kind of go through those, wear those, and decide which particular submission we want to move forward with. And once that decision is made, then we usually provide feedback in terms of how we want to adapt or work on that particular submission. And so there's a process that goes along with that. And this was actually, it's definitely it gives you the somewhat of the vibe of an aquatic without necessarily having specific aquatic or watery notes, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the vibe we're going for. However, in that process, we had the spice element, the ginger, in that fragrance, and as a standalone, it kind of needed something else. So I suggested the cardamom in that, which brought in yet again another spice element, but really rounded that fragrance out, and I think made it something pretty special. But due to the spice elements of that, maybe probably pulled it even further away from a more true aquatic. So I wouldn't say that was necessarily my intention. However, it made the fragrance better. It's just kind of, some of the things that happened in the process of fragrance development in general. But, I do still, I love aquatics, and, I'm not opposed to doing that. And, I'm not saying that, I'm not ruling that out, that we won't attempt that again. And, if we do, I may, part of the fragrance creation process too is allowing the perfumers to have some, more license and liberty. Like in Musashi, there was probably less, but, and in doing that, sometimes it's almost kind of like going with the flow a little bit, like I said, because they're so much better at that process than me as a designer. I may have an idea of what I want, but they kind of move things in a direction that maybe I wasn't intending, but I may actually like it more. So there's give and take, and the fragrance creation process sometimes takes on a life of its own, so to speak.
Sure.
So it's so things like that happen as well, and that I would say to some extent that may have happened a little bit with Calabria. I love what we came up with. But it wasn't necessarily exactly what I had in mind at the beginning, but I think in a lot of ways it's probably better. Yeah.
I had no idea we were going to get like an in-depth look at Calabria with that question. That was that was awesome.
You can, as a designer, you certainly can, put your foot down and say, okay, no, we got to start over. Let's just completely start over. We're going this direction. But when you find something that you really like, it's I don't want to just shut the door on that and be like, no, this is not what I'm trying to do at all, when it's fantastic. So it's like, I'd rather help develop that rather than be like, no, this is what we're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very hard to strike that balance. And like you said, with Musashi, you already had a very clear picture of where the direction you wanted versus kind of the broad strokes, right? Like you said, give the professionals some like wiggle room,
Yeah.
creative license and whatnot. But I mean, like we've seen in both cases, very good end result.
For sure. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think Chris could have a bad result. A bad result. I'm sorry. This is the
not Chris, but like if other people were in his shoes, right? Sometimes like when do you know to like put your foot down? Kind of what Chris was alluding to, like put your foot down versus you're like, this is not what I asked for, but I don't mind. Like I don't mind it.
It has happened. It's happened once, and we just weren't getting anywhere, and I basically had to say we've got to completely start over with this, and we actually started over with a different perfumer, and it wasn't anything about wrong with necessarily that perfumer, because they're fantastic, and it just maybe some things got lost in creation, or in translation, and just couldn't come together on something. But and giving the brief to somebody else, we actually have a finished product for that fragrance that's coming out next summer, and it's like phenomenal. So it's I mean, it's a creative process on both sides, and I think in a lot of cases, things, it's an art form, and from my perspective, and on their side as well, and if communication isn't working, or something's not working, sometimes you got to start over. So it happens.
Yeah.
That would be so hard to have a scent that you know is ready, and you have to wait a year to release it. But I get there's probably so many scents that Chris has locked down that it's just like, yep, this is gonna be the fall release, this is gonna be the winter release, this is gonna be the spring, summer. Probably, maybe not. I'm just assuming. But the fact that you already have a scent that's down, it's done, that you have to wait a year to do, that would be so hard for me to do. I would be like, no, get it out. Let's just go.
Next winter's fragrance is already done.
Winter 2024.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I was gonna kind of similar to Nate. I was gonna ask, how far do you have the roadmap going, like to winter 2024, or does it go further than that?
Nothing. There's nothing beyond that.
I mean, that's still pretty good.
2024 in general isn't completed.
Okay.
As of yet, but that one's completed. The summer one's completed. So it's just but you kind of have to get ahead of these things and like work on them quite a bit in advance, because the process itself could take multiple 3-4 months, and then ordering takes another month, and then if there's any delays in there, and then you got design and labels and all that kind of stuff too.
So Chris, this is something that we never even talked about with Bluegrass Muse, but did we kind of, when we threw out the idea to you, did that kind of like throw out a roadblock, or like did we get bumped up in line? Like, did you have other plans?
So there's there's I mean, if I wanted to try to work on a fragrance for release in like February, like I could do that right now if I wanted to.
Okay.
But Yeah, and to some extent too, it's a matter of what do I have as an artisan, and a business owner, what do I have the bandwidth to do in any given year? I mean, I
Yeah.
I thought it was fairly aggressive this year. We ended up actually dropping a release this year, just because I thought we were trying to do too much too fast, and so yeah.
Hmm.
So I do have a question just based off of the fragrance element. When you started Gentleman's Nod, did you start out with Mon, or was that like, did you try to do your own fragrance? Was it a blend? Because I
So
truly
I did all of our original fragrances.
original. Okay, so your flagship, so like
Yeah.
Ernest and Jackie, which first of all,
Yeah.
I keep on
So
saying this. Jackie is so underrated. Get yourself a Jackie. I love that
yeah.
scent so much. I have the beard balm, and I want to get this because I finished it. I actually have the aftershave still, but I finished the soap. I love that scent so much. Sorry, go ahead, Chris. I'm cutting you off.
So I created all those in the beginning, and what you see is George, Ernest, Jackie, Vincent, Johnny now were actually done by Mont. So
Okay.
I sent them samples of my oil that I put together, which were it was it was my attempt at perfumery, but and I said, help me, please.
Yeah.
So, I'm embarrassed to send these to you, and then I even sent them the formulas, like what percentage of each like different oil was in them, and I was just like, oh, like don't look at my face right now.
Well, no, but it's okay. So now that
So
comes
they
up
they
because
took those and basically kept the essence of them, but made them better, if that makes sense.
yeah, but that does make sense because Bilu from the Canadian Mafia show, he had the original Ernest, was it? And
Yep.
I think it was, and he said he picked up more mango, was it,
Yeah,
John?
the mango one.
Then because I have this had to be the one that I have is the Mon fragrance, but so did
The
all
original
that?
was sweeter. There's actually a note in the original that's not in the current Ernest, which is kumquat, which is a sweet
Oh,
citrus, very unique citrus. They're like
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
yeah,
like oblong grapes, kind of size wise.
okay.
And yeah. Anyway.
So what did your whole concept change once you collaborated with George Zaharoff and then you got his fragrance and then you're like, well, and is that when Mon became a thing, or was that before George
So
Zaharoff?
he did introduce me to them.
Okay, okay,
So I did an event with George where we kind of introduced a few products for him, like aftershave balm and beard oil at a um, I don't know if you're familiar with Scent Explorer,
Hmm.
but it's
yeah,
kind of a niche perfume event in New York City. So I went and brought our products and kind of helped George out there, and that was in 2019.
Hmm.
okay,
And Mon was actually there. They kind of they were part of the event as well. They were in the same room as we were, and um, so I got introduced to them through him for sure. And
awesome.
and then once they agreed to work with us, yeah, I mean, I there's definitely a shift in okay, we're gonna let fragrance lead the way, not in the sense that we're gonna stop focusing on the shaving industry at all, but we're gonna do our best to come up with the best original fragrances we can, and filter those through our products as well as enter into kind of the fragrance world as well.
For sure, because you could tell the shift starting with when you collaborated with George, and then once Musashi came out, it was like I can tell when you message us saying that Musashi, we would ask you how's Bluegrass Muse sales compared to Musashi. It's like, they're good, but they're not close. I mean, so you could tell. You could tell Musashi is like,
nothing has been close to Musashi at this point. So
wow, okay.
Which is interesting because I don't know. I mean, I hate to like, rank our own fragrances or anything like that, but you know, Musashi will always have a special place in my heart. But I don't from a purely fragrance perspective, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's our best work in that sense. I don't know.
Okay. Is there like, do you have like a short list of candidates which you would put in front of it?
It's so,
they're your children. I know it's like
to
your
some
children.
extent, it's like
rank your children.
it's also so subjective too. Like,
right.
Like it might be, a fragrance I particularly love. I really love the new one that's Sadama that's coming out. It's really different from anything we've ever done, and it's different
Okay.
from most things I've ever smelled before. But I also, still absolutely adore Juniper Reverie. I felt it was pretty, unique as well, just because it's a fresher fragrance that has a sweet element in the cognac, which almost comes across as, because cognac is fermented from grapes. It almost has like a touch of sweetness, like a white grape coming across. But then, because of the frankincense and myrrh, there's like almost a smoky element that comes into a fresh fragrance, which is like not that common. And so that one still gets me, and that one hits differently than some of our other fragrances. You talk about things being blended, so where you can't necessarily pick out one note. You talk about there's some fragrances that have massive transitions from open to mid to base. Musashi is actually one of those. If you're talking about the parfum, but something like Juniper Reverie is different in there are transitions a little bit, but it's almost like when you smell Juniper Reverie, that's part of the name where we get the Reverie aspect. But it's like you almost smell something different every time you smell it. It's like there's layers to it, and you can smell different layers. Like every time you smell it, there's less transition, but there's just layers there.
Yeah,
it's hard to describe.
Like, we probably don't have time to dive into this, but I feel like your background, with the bartending and in general, like I remember you always share mixed drinks and stuff, cook and like have drinks, cooking, all that stuff. That is very simple. You can't help but draw the parallels with fragrancing. And I feel like that's maybe more right. That's like serves as a lot of your inspirations, like spirits and liquor, and then how it mixes, how it blends together. Like that's.
And I was trained. My secondary training as a craft cocktail bartender out here in Omaha was, by honestly some of the best in the industry, certainly the best here. But
there you go.
And that's one of the biggest. I mean, obviously a cocktail has to taste good, but the nose is actually really important too, and something that you can usually tell the difference between a really high quality cocktail, something that somebody that knows what they're doing has put together, versus somebody that's just been told or given a menu and you got to put this and this in there. Smelling a cocktail will kind of show you that difference, highlight that difference.
Let's bring this thing wind down. I have so many more questions. But like I said, we'd love to have you back on, Chris, if you're up for it. And
Absolutely.
You might need a part 2, John, for sure. Like this is like a part. I don't.
I can just keep going.
Obviously, yeah. Actually, we probably should, and then you can.
I haven't even. I'm a massive Cowboys fan, and I haven't even watched the rest. I haven't even watched the rest of the game today. Like I've been like going from one thing to the next, like today, and I haven't even watched the rest. I mean, where it is right now, like I've been pausing it and stuff.
How are you a Cowboys fan from the places you've lived?
So okay, here it is. Okay. So Southern California. Yeah. There was a certain quarterback that played at UCLA. This dates me.
I'm not a sports guy at all. So
his first name is Troy.
Oh yeah. What the hell? Okay, yeah. Troy.
Yeah. So I've literally been a Cowboys fan since Troy Aikman was drafted. So 1989, and
you don't want to say you're Cowboys.
You and your Drakkar Noir and Troy Aikman.
I've been to the Super Bowl live. Ooh. Sat on the 50-yard line, watched the Cowboys beat up on the Bills, 52-17. I was at Super Bowl 27.
Isn't that the one where, people remember the Bills getting crushed, but everyone remembers the Bills wide receiver running down
Leon Lett,
and before he gets into the end zone.
Yes, I was there.
It was a touchback, like that's what everyone remembers because it was such a blowout. Like what a terrible Super. I mean, not for Cowboys fans, but
for Chris, it's a good day.
Michael Jackson was the halftime show. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, that is right. That was like the first like big one, right?
Yeah,
because they always did like Mickey Mouse crap like before.
Yeah, they were losing too much. It became the norm to tune out during the halftime show.
Yeah,
so they tapped. Yeah,
I think he was like the first, or he was like the second
superstar. I think you're right, Nate. That part, no, more for my love of music. Less so.
And I also went to Texas Stadium when it still existed. Watched Troy Emmett and Michael Irvin be inducted into the Ring of Honor.
That's pretty,
in Old Texas Stadium. So, I've been a pretty diehard Cowboys fan for many, many years. It's been rough for a little while.
All right.
Yeah.
I think they played Minnesota once last year too. I think it was a good game, right? Wasn't it a good game, Nate?
No. I always have the 2009 playoffs in my heart because they crushed the Cowboys with Favre. And that's what I have. And everyone was picking the Cowboys to win, and they got crushed. So I have that. Give me that.
All right. So, Chris, as we are winding down, and we've tried to do so a few times, I want to thank you so much for all your time. Nate, also, thank you for your time and filling in for today. It's been a blast. But to end on the positive note, I'd like to throw this question out. And Nate, if you want to tackle it too, you can. But for Chris, what are 3 things you're grateful for?
Oh man, I am grateful for. I'm a religious man. I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful for my wife, who's probably the biggest blessing in my life. And just to keep in line with this particular show, I'm grateful for the opportunity to do for a living what I love to do.
I mean, I can't beat that. What am I supposed to say now? No, I mean, family, like my son, he just turned 2. I mean, and my wife, but my son, birthday. When you start having kids, it's like they become a priority, The community, I love this community. I mean, there's a lot of people that come into the community and they leave, but I don't think I could ever be that person. I don't know. I love it so much. And I'm thankful for this.
That's specific bottle, or he's holding up his Knob Creek 12 for audio listeners?
In general, just bourbon, just whiskey.
Love a bourbon.
I mean, it's I like it. you know. So I'm thankful for that.
You do. Awesome. Well, excellent answers, both of you. Again, Nate, thank you for coming on to the show today. And Chris, thank you for being our featured guest. It was so much fun getting to know more about you, about Gentleman's Nod. And for sure, there's so many more questions and topics that we could go on. So we'd love to have you back maybe in a few months if you're up for it.
Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris and Nate. And listeners, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for your time and checking out this episode. You can find all the socials for Nate, for Chris, for Gentleman's Nod in the show notes or the video description, whichever version you are watching or listening to. And yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in and hope to catch you next episode. So we'll see you then. Take care.
Bye.
Peace.